Hello, this is Bridget Rao with Divine Essentials. Hello, this is the Starseed Shaman podcast, and doing a new episode tonight. I was going to talk about something that I feel like there's actually a couple of things. I feel like a lot of the Starseeds, or people who are empaths, healers, light workers, those who have awoken, there's usually a reason, and it's usually not like oh wow, there's a great reason, but it's a reason that gets us to wake up or to seek meaning of life or need like a higher power to help us. In a lot of the cases that I've seen, sometimes nowadays with like the glorifying parts of things that have been like put into the mass media, like crystals, we have some people that are in because it's somehow become like the cool thing or whatever. There's not so much stigmatizing around like having crystals or being spiritual, but before it was like okay or cool, there was usually a reasoning that brought people in. Like, I'm going to lose my mind if I don't have something like click inside of me. A lot of us have had a lot of trauma or pain or difficulties. In order to become an empath, a lot of times it's like we were on high alert as a child because maybe our parents were not like, stable. And so walking into a room with your mom, you had to feel, is this an okay time? Is she going to flip out? Is she all right now? Like, you had the ability as a child to be responsible, or like, oh, yeah, probably not a good time right now to ask about that, so we're gonna wait. You probably like tell your friends like, no, not right now, acting like adults almost, because if you think about how adults are with their kids, like, no, not right now, just leave the kid alone, the kid's being quiet, being good, not freaking out. You as the child would do that with your parent because, they're being alright right now, just leave them on the couch, don't bother them, I'll get my own breakfast and dress myself and go to school, it's alright, I'll drive the car, don't worry. Like, there's that type of energy around empaths, because there's been suffering and you are now like, okay, like I feel bad for others because I know what that's like. Or you feel other people's stuff because you had to be able to feel the room or feel the energy, feel out your surroundings. And so it kind of like is like now I'm set up for that way of being. I can walk into the room. And it's not just, and I think that this is the thing too, like we're introverts, right? We just don't want to be drained, is most of the thing. Like, we have enjoying times when we go out. Like, some of us can be a little bit of a both, like a introvert, extrovert. Depends on the atmosphere. It depends on the people, and it depends on what you've been through personally and all of that. But to go out into like a group of people, it's not like other people where they're just sitting there and they're like, oh yeah, hi, how you doing? Oh, good time, blah, blah. You are like scanning everything, even if it's unconscious. You're scanning it. You pick up, what is that guy over there? What do you look at him? Like there's something, like you just know, and that's the one that like later on comes out with a gun or something and is like, oh, I'm gonna kill everybody. You feel it. So a lot of times I think psychic is like a super powered empath, or an empath that has recognized that ability or exercised that ability to a further extent. Because another part of coming through a lot of trauma or things like that, I feel like, because like my mother had that ability, she could just know. She just knew. And it was weird. It was crazy, scary. How does she know? Oh my god. And you thought that she really knew, but she didn't. Like, I could know something, but it's dependent upon the person I'm knowing about. Like, if they tell me no, then I'm going to assume no and be like, oh, I guess I was wrong. But if that happens to you enough, if you're right about something, you say it, and that person denies it to you, which is what happens in toxic relationships or connections with people that are not maybe the best for you, you're going to diminish your empath superpower, your psychic superpowers, because you're doubting yourself. Your confidence gets stomped on. You don't believe what you feel anymore. And society as a whole has kind of steered away from feelings and, wants logical, like rational, scientific proof for everything. But sometimes there isn't that. You can't scientifically prove why people are in love with the person that they shouldn't be, or why somebody, goes through one thing and comes out of it and does totally opposite of what the other person that went through the exact same thing does. Two kids can come through a family and one of them becomes a doctor and, and the other one's like living in the streets somewhere. It's just dependent upon what goes on with the internal side of that person. But you can't scientifically 100% know the answers to things like that. But I do know that there are some things that I see be like little, it's weird, and there's weird things too, like that kind of like indicate like, oh, this person is a starseed, or this person is a trauma survivor, or this person is somebody that probably had an experience with this thing or that thing, or blah blah blah, and now as a result of that they are da-da. But after a while we can kind of like look at the circumstances. Just like with like the astrology thing has been big for me lately, because I'm going deeper into it and seeing like, oh wow, that's weird that like that thing being in that place, in that position, but this thing is like making you be that way, or your circumstances in this area of life are really difficult or not difficult. It's just really all about where the stars were, where the moon was, and how that all lined up for you when you came in. But I'm also a believer that we have like a little scientific thing about it too, almost like a predetermining. Like a lot of people say, like when kids are little, before they like come into their like full awareness of being a human, or like they're conscious, they say things or they have weird experiences, and I think almost every kid does it, but it's depending on the parent, if it gets like nurtured, or if they dismiss it, or they just tell them whatever, like oh, it's just your imaginary friend. I think when that's happening, it's like they're talking to a ghost right now. Or the kids who have come through and they know who they were in another life, and you can go like, there was a little boy, he remembered like being in a war, and like he had a plane, and it was a certain type of plane, and it had a certain name, and he had certain people that he went and like fought with in a war. And then he's like telling his parents about all of this, and they were able to like eventually pinpoint, like he's like, this is where I crashed, like he knew all these details. And there was like a little girl that was watching TV and saw a building, and it made her like all upset because it was what she had jumped from and died because of jumping out of that place where it was on fire. And lo and behold, it was like, oh yeah, same thing, like, oh, that's real, that's a real story. I think I might have mixed up. I think that might have been a boy that was a girl, and yeah, because I think that little boy was like, he was like a black woman in his last life, but he was like a little white boy in this life, and he knew the name and stuff. And then there was another one that had the whole plane incident, and just knowing things that they should not know. And I've seen my own niece, Savannah, who's a little bit older than, because I think it's 1 to 7 there, or 0 to 7 is the age where they are more likely to come out with some stuff or be interacting with the other side. But my mother passed away when Savannah was like in that age bracket, and some of the stuff that she has done, said, still does, is like, holy crap, like singing a song that me and my sister don't even know like the words to or whatever, but it was like a thing that our mother would do or know. And hearing Savannah like, Graham told me. And then when I got the day after my mother passed away, I went to do the first direction of building my healer's mesa, which was all about connecting with ancestors. And we did like an activation on a rock, and I did it and put it into my mesa, and it's all boom, boom, closed up and folded in all the ways. And there's a bunch of rocks in there and other things, like little tools inside of my mesa. The time that I brought it to my sister's house, within probably a month of having that experience of activating it and all of that, I opened up my mesa and was showing her the stuff inside of it. She pulled out that rock out of all of them. It was like, Graham. And also at the time she would be taking anything like that, like a stone or a crystal, and putting it right to her third eye. Like intuitively, instinctively, just like, boom, here it is on my third eye. Like, what? How do you even know? What you doing? What are you doing? And I think, yeah, because I got my sister a necklace, like a glass blown necklace with the ashes inside, or it's like a memorial piece for your family member. She came here, got it and went home, and then as soon as my niece saw it, she did that thing again. Graham, like, she knew. She just does those things, and it's weird, but it's like, I don't doubt them. I don't think it's even weird. I just think it's like, I think it's weird that we don't like recognize and nurture. But I guess it's hard because it's not like you get a class. I had a lot of parents over the years ask me, because I have, people show up to my events, and they're like, can I bring my kid? Or, do you know anybody that, like, I can get them into this stuff now so that they don't have to, like, pull it out of themselves in 100 years? Because a lot of times we are very intuitively inclined as children, but then because of conditioning, society, and fears and beliefs and not wanting to be a weirdo and all of that stuff, we, like, turn it off. And then later on, when we're, like, not so much in caring about, like, what other people think, or we're not in high school anymore, we're like, oh, I would kind of like to have that back. But then it's harder to get it back. So finding, even just like, I know that Spirit Science is on YouTube. It's like almost like a cartoon. It is a cartoon, but it's like the topics he covers are very expansive. Like, he'll talk about like tantric kundalini or the chakras or sacred geometry, but he does it in a way that it's like, I can understand and comprehend this. And I think children would too, because it's fun, and it's like they're cartoons and talking about Atlantis and talking about all of the different things. So if you have a child and you've never seen Spirit Science, that may be a way to kind of like bridge the world a little bit. I know certain people in my physical community that have incorporated things, because like one was like a kindergarten teacher, and she did like a spirit animal class, which you don't need to have somebody else to do that. Like, you could do a spirit animal class with a child and just Google, like, get a spirit animal deck and a child, and like, there you go, you've got a class. Like, sit down with them and let them intuitively pick the right card. And when they, oh my God, that's your spirit animal for today, or, talk to them about it, have them meditate on it. What does that animal want to tell you? Guarantee you that kid is going to get way more insight than you ever thought of. And if you get them into maybe journaling or whatever, like some sort of little thing like that, like every day we pull a card for a message from spirit, or every day we write out our affirmations or our gratitude, like those are things that could change a person's life and have a very, very amazing life. And it's so easy and it's so simple, but we don't do those things because it's not like, what, like that should be stuff that's like, boom, here you go, brush your teeth, do your affirmations. Like, those are things that should be normal and instilled and brought about into life, because then people wouldn't be so about stuff, or thinking badly about themselves, or creating a creation that sucks. So, try to be creative and do it for yourself too. Like, if it's something that you were like, yeah, I really want to do that for my kid, do it for you, because you deserve it too. One thing I've wanted to mention or ask about that I've never gotten around to for some reason, and I think it's probably because it has like a stigma or whatever, I don't know, I guess I forget about it too, but I've noticed a lot of the people who I have connected to, like, learned deeper about, like, oh, we went beyond just like, I'm a starseed, or I resonate with this, or a 5-minute conversation. A lot of them have had been on like Adderall at some point in their life. Maybe not during their awakening, maybe not during, like after their awakening, but I feel like at some point in their lives, almost every single person that I've known personally, that they seem to have had a spiritual awakening and also resonate with the Starseed stuff, has either been on it, been prescribed to it, has been diagnosed ADHD or ADD or somewhere like that. I know like the Indigo kids get those wrong diagnoses because they're like adamant and they're loud and they're distracted, or they're not like, they're just not controlled easily, and they're bored is part of the problem. Is like, you have these kids who are advanced, but then you have other kids that are not advanced, and you're trying to teach them all the same stuff. Like the Indigo kid gets it, understands it, doesn't need to sit here for another 8 hours to decide, like, I've got that now. So what happens is they get bored and they want stimulus or something going on in their world, and then they get in trouble because they're like fidgeting, or they're talking to their friends, or they're not doing what they should be doing according to the rules, and then they get labeled ADHD or whatever. And I don't even think it's that. I think it's just that they're bored here, or they need more stuff going on. Like, I've even said, I need to have, like, not, I don't need to, but I feel like I do better when I don't have to only be doing one thing at a time. Like, can I draw at the same time? Then I'm going to absorb it better. Can I, clean 5,000 things at the same time? Sure, let's do them all at once. Like, doing a load of laundry, loading the dishwasher, sweeping that part of the floor, and reorganizing that drawer over there. This thing's pulled out and that thing's pulled out, but at the end of that craziness, it's all done, it's all good, it's all where it needs to be. It worked out. But I have like a hard time like just going into one set thing and coming out that same place. It's usually a circle in a circle, which I did have a little, they called it's the Pleiadian astrology book is like the spirals of consciousness, and the Pleiadian channel that brought that in her person that she did it with, they have this huge system, like we already have our astrology, which is huge and expansive and complex. Well, this is like another version, and it's more Pleiadian energy, and it connects to like numbers, and every day is like, all right, we're doing cycles of 13, and their thing with that is saying like, we cut ourselves off, like and you'll see it in society, like 13 has been demonized, or it's so sad, bad, like scary 13. So instead of having full complete cycles, we're screwing up, like we're not letting that 13th part of the cycle close things up and before starting a new cycle. So there's all these unfinished things, and there's all this chaos within creation, and it's because they don't just allow us to do the way that it was like meant to be. But what they are saying is like, this comes in on spirals of consciousness, and it like spirals on in. So it's like, you may feel like great on day 1, and day 2 is about this, and day 3 is about that, day 4 is about this, and then the 13th is the finishing up of that thing that you started, and then you do another one and another one. So like, it would make sense that like what I started in the beginning of the month, I might steer away from it for a little bit and then spiral back around to it. And I've seen it on different scales where it's like, I start something, in a year later I'm like thinking about doing it again, or it comes back up. I've even had it be weird, like now that we have these memories on Facebook pop up, it's like something that I wear one time a year, I will wear it again exactly a year after, on the exact same day. And it could be because of like the time of year and the temperature change, but it's weird for it to be like, wow, I only wore those pajama pants one time the whole year, and it was on that day. And then a year later, did it again. What? I think there's something in the energy, something in the temperature, something in the frequencies. I don't even know, really, honestly, what it all means or why it would happen, or there may not even be like a really big reason, but I do feel that stuff is encoded, and it does happen. I'm sure other people have noticed that, like, every year around a certain time of the year you're doing certain things and feeling certain ways, and things are coming back up, or it's almost like you didn't complete that, right? That would probably be like why we would keep doing it. Like, we didn't get the fullness of our completion on our cycle, so now we're like, oh, it feels unfinished, I want to do it, but because we're not giving us that time for that 13th part of it, we can't. It's like, it's just always a never-ending thing that's like out there. And 13 was connected to the divine feminine, and Friday the 13th has been like that scary thing, but it used to be that Fridays were for the goddess of love, and it used to be that 13 was like connected to the divine feminine and the goddess energy and all of that stuff, and now it's like, no. They even went as far as to take 13, like not making 13 floors in a building, not having 13 steps on a flight of stairs, not having 13 on certain things because of that, like, suppression of it, or like the stigma around it. So I don't know what other people feel about that, or what they think about that, or why that would become so weird, but I've noticed that. And I've also noticed that there seems to be a correlation between some of the starseeds and having some sort of connection. Look, I asked somebody the other day that I know who is a starseed, and they had, they weren't like prescribed to it or anything like that. I don't think it was like a problem for them. Somebody had given it to them a few times when they were studying for school. So it does seem to have like a connection. I don't know if it's almost like there's like a receptor in the brain, or something that comes about from, whatever's in it is like, boop boop, here, your starseed thingy that you needed to like uncode or release or be like, open to. Here you go. Once you have that, you're okay. And again, you don't have to have had like extensive, like, an addiction or issues surrounding it or anything like that. I just think that it's something that people seem to have had in their world at some freaking point for some reason. So if you're somebody that's had that happen and you feel like you are a starseed, I would be interested to see how many people out there have at least just had it one time, or how many people out there are a starseed, really resonate with it and feel like, no, I never had that, never even, I don't even know what that is or whatever. And again, we connect with people who are going to be like similar to us anyways, or have like a certain frequency about them. So it's probably not uncommon that like all of the starseeds that have may resonate towards me, and all of the starseeds that haven't may not resonate towards me. They may go towards somebody else that's like whatever. So it may just be one of those things, but I've noticed it enough to the point where I've been like, that's weird. So interested to find out about others. And then obviously, like I was saying, trauma and Starseeds, I don't think it's just one thing for anybody, and I think it could come on at different points, but a lot of us have had trauma. We've been through something, or something just wasn't normal. And again, another common thing I see playing out with people, and I think it's like, again, a sensitive thing inside of them, or it could be because they've been not treated the best. They may not even know or recognize or feel like it's okay for them to feel that they've been through that. Like, especially with people who have had maybe a difficult situation with their parents. I myself was not able to even really see it, recognize it, acknowledge it until after my mom passed away, and I was like, hey, wait a minute, like, I knew that she wasn't, lovey-dovey, and that things done, or how she was kind of like off the handle, but that was just her. It was just mom. It wasn't like I wasn't putting myself into like, oh wow, that was probably really like detrimental to your upbringing, huh? I didn't think it. I guess I didn't even really think about it. But I've seen other people who are still like in it, or people who are unable to recognize it, like they don't even see it at all, or they're not able to, in things that like make no logical sense, like people who can see it now, right? They may notice now that their parent is, but they're like, but my childhood was perfect. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. How could you feel that way? Like, if you know right now, at this time, at the age that you are, but you're no longer a child, that the connection between you and a parent is not good, it's toxic, your mom's pretty messed up or something, like she's not treating you right, how could you assume or think that like earlier on it wasn't bad, or like that wasn't existing within the dynamics, or that like you somehow came through that time like unscathed, or that wasn't happening at that time? I think it was probably happening at that time, maybe not to the fullest degree, or maybe on different levels, or maybe there was like a buffer there, or somebody else was like able to kind of like protect you better or whatever. But I'm gonna pretty much assume that if your mom or your dad was an adult when they had you, and they were, who they are, unless they went through some severe craziness, that they probably already were who they were throughout that whole time. And then as an adult, you may have gotten more aware and able to pinpoint or recognize or stand up for, or just say like, oh yeah, that's not a healthy dynamic between us. But way back as a child, it was probably there too. Or there may have been some things happening that would have led to maybe some difficulties in our lives or within our relationships, because part of the problem with having trauma surrounding a parent, or having an abusive parent, or having things like that, is our parents, or the relationships that we have with our parents, teach us how to have relationships with everybody. And then the next category is our siblings, and the way that we deal with them, or they deal with us. And that always bothers me, because I know that like when I was younger, I wasn't always like the best human, and I would have some stuff happen, and my younger sister Chrissy was there and saw it all, and like there's things that I don't remember. I blacked them out, have no recall whatsoever about like entire periods of life. But she can tell me what I was wearing and what I said word for word on certain days of like stuff happening, and I'm like, and I feel bad, because like I've also seen her do the exact same things that I've done, or go into dynamics that I was in, stuff that she see me do, she's done, and it's like, don't do that, no. But it sucks, because it's like my own bullshit, or my own falling apart mentally, emotionally at different points was detrimental to her, was detrimental to my other sister, detrimental to my brother. Like, it rippled out, because that's what happens. It wasn't intentional, but it happened. So it sucks, but there's nothing we could do about what happened or who we were, but we can get better, try harder, be aware of, and then try to take the steps forward to stop that from happening again and again and again and again. Because now she has a child, and there's times that I'm like, hey, well, maybe you could say this or try that or whatever, because she grew up with my mom, who was crazy, and her dad, who was really, 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 like, cold, mean, to her more so than my other sister, which was like it was really bad to watch how he was to her, and to be her would have been horrible, especially because she was so sweet and loving, and he would be like, like, just not that. So now they don't even talk. But for her to come through that life of like, okay, my mom is, narcissistic, but she was more so the kind that's like oblivious to it. Like, she wasn't doing it to be mean. She wasn't doing it in a way that was like, I want to hurt you. She just did it because of what she had been through. But then the guy that she married and had children with, I was already 10 at this time, so like I had my own experience in life for 10 years being an only child. Then she got this guy, and this guy is like, whoa. So he had no emotions. We stopped hugging and kissing, like love yous, all stopped. But he showed up. And so that's like who she came through with. And then me, her oldest sister, wasn't shown like the greatest decision making in like, oh, hey, I'm gonna date this guy or that guy, or I'm gonna do this and be like completely messed up for a while. Like, I think there was a time that I was driving her somewhere, and I guess I was like, and sometimes I just think about driving into a tree straight full, like, oh my god, like I don't even know what I was talking. She remembers it because she was traumatized by it. Because she was a little kid, and that's not what you do to a little kid, but I was obviously not in a good place mentally. But if you've been through anything like that, and you don't want that to go down into your siblings or your family, or you do want to have a child, or a healthy relationship with anybody, like romantically or whatever, there are things that could probably help. Yeah, some of it is like getting, like, psychiatrists are the people that you need to go to in order to get put onto medications. They just have like a talk with you, and then they decide like, this is what you are, and they give you medicine based off of what you are. I'm not a big like I don't see how that could like pan out. You know what I mean? Like, what? One time you talk to this person and they just know instantly that you're this, and this, because they get it wrong a lot. And then it's like they don't even have to be that, because you can have like your primary care doctor prescribe you to stuff, or think that you are a thing and give you something that makes you worse or crazy. And they're like, oops, try this one. So I would probably look into things on your own too. Like, I'm one of those people that I get like, into it. Like, I go deep into like looking into all, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? What are the symptoms of, and why would that happen, and what are the dynamics behind most of the time that happening? And my sister does it too. She looks it up. She's like, diagnosing herself. And we're both like, yeah, me too. Oh my god, yeah. But it's not good. But it's nice to have somebody else that's like, yeah, I get it. Like, me too. And then there's things like counseling. You can get a counselor, which if you go to one and you decide like, this is not for me, it's probably because you get the wrong one. There's a billion people in the world. Everybody has an approach to what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and what they're going to recommend and what they're going to say to you. And certain things are very delicate. Like, if you go into a room and you're telling people about your trauma, the words that they use, the tone that they use, the face that they make, like, all of that is going to make you be like, ah, or wow, this is nice. So if you're not happy with the first one, look for more or find a way that it works for you. I found out recently that they do have text. Like, you can text a counseling person. Some places are free. Like, you could do free texting with people. They're there to talk to you, to help you to even be like, wow, maybe that was not the best situation. Because a lot of people don't know. It's not like like if you go through an abusive situation, the abuser isn't usually like, hey, I'm abusing you. Like, you just don't know. And a lot of times people around you don't know because you don't tell them, you know. And a lot of people have like this like family first approach to life, which is fine. But if the family that you're putting first, or defending, or lying for, or protecting is not good, that's not going to be good in the long run for yourself, and your confidence, and your beliefs, and your abundance, and your relationships, because we go to what's familiar. So if you went through some abuse as a child, or you were treated pretty badly as a kid, it's not uncommon for you to be treated badly by others that you meet, or feel more comfortable with the people who treat you badly. And then there's support groups. So I've noticed, there's support groups that you could go to for support of like, oh yeah, I had a bad situation with this person or that person. But there's also like support groups online or like on Facebook even, and it could be based around being a starseed. Back when I first woke up, first time I looked, couldn't find anybody online. Like, it was like I'm by myself. I am the only weirdo in the world. I remember trying to tell my sister, I was like, oh my god, bye-bye. She was like, yeah, okay, bye. Like, she just thought I was nuts. Then I couldn't find anybody online. Then a second time that I like seeked and looked on Facebook, there was a member, like there was 30,000 members within the Pleiadian group, and I was like, holy crap, where did this come from? It was like it sprung up out of nowhere. So I joined it, and just like with my jobs in my life, like anything I joined, like I'm gonna start working at Petco, they're like, oh, we're gonna make you a manager. Like, okay, sure. Start working at a restaurant. Oh, can you run this place every day of the week for like the rest of this time? Okay, like, sure. Go into this group of 30,000 people, and within like a couple weeks, I was like the admin, and I was being like interviewed on YouTube with other people that were other admins, and like it was like I was like, I do everything to the full. Like, let me go over here and be like, I don't even know, but I read today about, because my ascendant is in Capricorn, that's like normal. It's like you just get like promoted, or people put you into a place of like, hey, you're in charge. Okay, and it's common to have like a messy childhood, or to be the responsible one of the family. And if you have a family that's like really fucked up, it's not too hard to become, but you take on that role, and it's like you grow up fast. But then later on in life, usually things get better, and you become like successful, and you can relax a little bit and have like the childhood that you didn't have. So it's like we reverse as we go up, Benjamin Button type of lifestyle. And then again, support group could be like, it could be something that you just do every month. Like when I worked in like the physical places around here, there would be like monthly things, like we're gonna do a gong bath, or we're gonna do like a meditation night, or we're gonna do something, something particular. Like every month I do the goddess activations, where in the beginning of it I talk about all the stuff that's going on with that goddess, and the energies, and the synchronicities. And every month it's like, whoa, this is insane how much it's like showing up in the world, and like it's like it guides itself. And then I just kind of have like a recount of everything I've seen, and read the cards, the messages that connect to those goddesses. And then we do like an activation. Last night was Mat, so it was all about justice and balancing the scales that have been unjust in our lives. And I had to get feathers, because when you pass away in Egypt back in the day, you'd go to the underworld, and you'd have to like weigh your heart against a feather to see, is your heart as light as a feather? And if it wasn't, they're gonna feed it to a demon. If it was, you were able to like go to the other side and have a good time, and then you could reincarnate and do all your things. But you know, if you have some stuff that's been not so good, you gotta tell Matt about it, give her your side, and also be honest. Like, what is your side of the story? What did you do that wasn't so good? All right, don't hold guilt, don't hold badness, don't hold all that shit, because that just weighs you down, and then your heart's not as light as a feather. So it's like, if I did something wrong, I'm gonna do something right and make things right, and then when I go to the other side, I can tell them, well, yeah, you know, I did that, but I did this to, you know, make up for it. Like, maybe you were, like, I don't know, you stole something. Like, but then you gave something to somebody that didn't have anything, or whatever you stole, you didn't keep, you gave it to somebody who really needed it. You know, something like that. Doesn't always have to be, like, in that way. It's just basically, like, yeah, I'm owning up to, like, my side of the shit, you know, but I'm also making up for it, trying to do good in better places, or do better moving forward, and, you know, righting my wrongs, basically. So, you know, finding things like that, even just like for yourself, like you could do the book that I have with the goddesses. There's the gods and titans with the men, and then there's the goddesses and sirens, or I can't remember what the name of it is, but there's two of them. The men version and the woman version, and every single card in the book connects to a different god or a goddess, and they all have a different ritual or an invocation. And I'm actually making a deck right now that's every card is like, hey, this is what you do. It's either like a moon thing, or a ritual with like water or the elements. There's a lot of different ones that are going to come. But each card would be like, hey, do this. It could be like writing affirmations about this, or it could be whatever. But doing something like that, or getting something that you can use to trigger those things, or to do activities to make those energetic changes, is beneficial. The 30-day tarot workbook that I have for people who actually use tarot or oracle cards, because I set it up in a way that doesn't matter. Every day has like a different thing. So it's like the first day we talk about, you know, and then I have spots where it's like, all right, now pull your cards. You know, maybe it's one card, maybe it's 3 cards, whatever. Like I wrote, for example, one of them was like, how do people see you? How do people perceive you? You pull like 2 cards for that, and it could be tarot or oracle. And most of the tarot, you know, it's got their pretty basic meanings, and like, you know, that oracles usually have words right on the front of them. So, like, I just split this deck here, Mercury retrograde reinvention. People may see me as somebody who is, like, reinventing stuff, or, like, you know, kind of, like, bringing stuff up to shake up stuff, or to change things, or communicate in a new way. And then North Node here is life's purpose. So my life purpose is to be a little weird. And then I have Yod, the destiny. So my destiny, my life purpose, is that Mercury retrograde reinventing myself, coming out of the craziness, bringing forth the destiny. And Mercury retrograde's about communication and like travel, like around town, and talking to your brothers and sisters and things like that. And then I have the first house here, which is all about our first impression of the body, and like how people perceive us, like what's your first impression to people. So people may see that about me. I actually do have a lot of people think I'm Gemini, and I think that's because I'm online and put myself out there to communicate and everybody within the world. But you know, I'm not. I am Taurus, Capricorn for the main ones, and then a whole bunch of more Taurus, Capricorn, and some Scorpio, and one Sagittarius. But you can do that, right? And you write down the name of the card, the keywords, and then like what you think that means. So like how you feel like people look at you based off of the cards that you've pulled. Like I've got Black Moon Lilith, who is about mystery, right? So if you had this, people could see you as that type of woman who's like independent, not going to be told what to do, not going to settle for just anybody, and maybe a little bit of bitch. But that's okay, whatever it is. And then you could, do it again on a different day, or go through the 30 days of the workbook, which each one has its own thing. It's like, how do you perceive yourself? How do others perceive you? Where do you need to focus right now for this? Where do you need to... So, I don't know what happened there, but all of a sudden it was like, asking me to do something on the screen, and I was like, wait, what happened? But basically, each part of that book connects to a different thing that can help people to manifest, to heal, to grow, to do. And my whole point with all of that is coming up with like a thing every day, or a thing every week, or a thing every month that's going to support you, whether or not it's publicly, privately, big scale, little scale, whatever. Breathwork is also something that would help people, whether or not you do it through meditation, do it through, like, specifically, like, going to, like, there's breathwork people out there who, like, teach you different techniques, classes, why you would want to use this one or that one. I know that the fire breath is, like, pretty intense. It, like, heats you up, it, like, cooks you. Just something that's going to shift your world, because a lot of people who've been through trauma don't breathe right. Even just coming out of the womb, think about, like, oh, you freak out because, like, you come out from a nice warm comfy place into this bright room where you're naked and cold and they slap your butt, like, well, welcome to the world. But it's usually not. It's like, oh wow, this is great. Sometimes people come in like a less traumatic way, or like it's not as intense, but a lot of times there is such a big deal around it. Freaks out the parent, the mom, before she even has the kid, to the point where, like, by the time she's pregnant, like, you know, giving birth, she's freaked out herself enough to create an experience where, like, they have to, like, knock her out, or there's, like, a problem because she's manifested it out of fear and out of freaking out about the process. My sister was knocked out for hers because she was freaking out so bad. But that's common. And so if you go through trauma, you, like, shallow breathe, you know, fill your lungs. It's like you're always in fight or flight mode. And that is a trauma response, which a lot of people have over time. Or, like, you get startled easy and things like that. So having a breath work or strategy of, like, I'm gonna breathe to get me back into my body, or to overcome this, like, fear that I'm feeling, or, you know, whatever it is that's going on, breath work is very helpful for that. And then stream of conscious writing is what they call it for some people. Other people like me call it, like, auto writing. I feel like I don't have any control over my writing a lot of times. And the thing that I was listening to the other day actually made sense for that, specifically because she was saying, like, you know, when we have people who've been through trauma and we ask them, like, as part of their therapy or counseling, to write their autobiography, you know, maybe they come back and or they go to another counselor or whatever, they have to write it again. And one of these people was like, why? Like, why do we always have to write this? Like, I already wrote it. Why can't I just use the one I already used? And it was like, because you're going to change. And I totally get it. She was, like, saying, like, if you do write your autobiography, leave space. Like, you know, every chapter or every thing that you're going to write about, leave space, because you're likely going to remember things that you forgot as you write, or you're going to have new details that you want to fill in later, or you're going to evolve and grow and heal and have a new perspective on it, or see it differently, or remember parts that you never remembered, especially if you have that part of you that a lot of people do, because our brain releases chemicals when we go through trauma that literally makes us forget what's going on, or we can't recall certain details, or we just black it out. Like the day that my mother went to the hospital, apparently I went into the freaking ambulance with her and drove to the place. I have no idea. I'm like, what? I don't remember that. My sister was like, no, you went in there with her. I was like, okay, I guess so. But it's a thing that our brains do to, like, preserve and, like, shut down and just not overload, I guess. So through stream of conscious writing, you don't think, you just write. You just write, which I do a lot. I have a lot of writing. Sometimes, you know, like, if I that's the thing too, if you set intention to write, usually you're gonna, receive within a certain frame. Like if I set the intention to write collective message for all the twin flames or all the starseeds, it comes. If I set an intention to write for me specifically, sometimes I don't know what's gonna come, or I don't, get exactly what I expected, but I know it's what I need, and I know it's gonna help me. And a lot of times I write poems, like it just like or it comes out in like a rhyme, or I don't know, it's almost like it's got like a beat. It's like do 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 do. Other people may read it and not see the beat within it, but I'm like in my head when I read it, I know what the beat was. And I think even in that, there's like something there that's like healing or helpful for the processing of that information, accessing more information, accessing different perspectives, getting it out of us rather than within, and just doing that work. But it is something that is a recommended tool for people who've been through trauma. So if you're one of those ones like, I don't think I could do automatic writing, don't think, just write. Don't think about anything. Don't go into it expecting anything. Just sit down and just write. People get blocked or blank or whatever. Just write whatever the word is. Like, what is the first word that comes into your mind right now? It could be red, car, rabbit, whatever. Boom, write it. And then keep going with that. And I remember when I first started to do automatic writing, my intention wasn't to do this like stream of conscious thing. It wasn't anything to do with healing trauma or whatever, but I was trying to do automatic writing, and it wasn't easy like the first few times, and it may have taken a while to get like a full sentence, but after a while it got to the point where it's like I can write 2 pages out in 5 minutes. It's like crazy. But it depends too, because like if I do private reading for a person, sometimes I pick up real quick and real fast, and it's like blah, 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 blah. Other times it's not like that. Other times it's like slow and like just bits and pieces, or it just takes me longer to get through it. So some people will end up with like, I send them like 5 pages for like the price of one, and other people may only get like the 1 page, because it just depends on the energy. So I try to like set it up in a way of like, this is going to be for 1 page, but you may get more. I don't know. Who knows what happens? I've had people get a reading that's supposed to be 20 minutes and it's been 5 hours. I never know. Which is a hard part of doing this work, is like, setting up like this is a 20-minute reading for X amount of dollars. But if spirit wants to talk to you for 6 hours, they're gonna, it's not gonna matter. They just do what they want. And, I just go with the flow and let that happen. But stream of conscious writing, write whatever we want, or journal about your day. You could sit down and be like, just write about your day. People say, like, the people who do it, who take this and put it into a practice of like, I just started writing 20 minutes a day and it changed my life. Like, literally, that's what people say. It's like they change their entire world through writing. So it's worth a shot if you can do it. And if you get to 21 days of doing something, you can change your reality. That's why I made the 30-day workbook. Was like, if you get to that 21 days, you're gonna, change stuff in your world. And if you keep doing it, like you get through the 30th day, do another round of it. Or take the things out of the 30 days that you really like doing and keep up with it. The affirmations or the gratitude or the whatever thing it is. That's how I got out of the situation that I was stuck in. By changing those little things. And writing every day what I was grateful for, and writing affirmations in a positive sense of like, I am abundant, I am healthy, I am supported, I am living the best life that I could possibly be living. Boom, boom, boom. They started to manifest, and things that you never thought would happen, happened. So your belief system is huge. If you don't believe you can have something, or you don't believe you're good enough for something, or you don't believe whatever, that's where you're going to stay and be and live in. So try to change those things. And by writing is a very powerful way. Like they say, like people who just type out their affirmations on a screen, it's not as intense or as powerful as putting your pen to paper. Pen to paper is like 1,000 times more intensely done. It does something with that remapping of the consciousness of the little things within the brain where they're like, oh, synapses or whatever. This is like neurobiologists are saying, literally, it's worth putting your pen onto the paper and writing for the vast difference that it makes in remapping your mind and reprogramming and restructuring and healing that stuff up there. And then obviously self-care, however you choose to do that. Like if it's like every week I'm going to do this, or every day I'm going to do that, I'm going to take a bath, I'm going to light candles, I'm going to splurge on like a meal out, I'm going to get my favorite ice cream, I'm going to use essential oils, I'm going to, whatever it is, get my nails done, or like maybe every week of the month you do something, I'm going to get my nails done on this week, get my hair done on that day, I'm going to get a pedicure on that one, and then I'm going to get like a massage on that one, and I'm going to, like, whatever it is, like, and if you can't afford that stuff, obviously, find other ways to, incorporate those things, like every week I'm going to do this, I'm going to go out for a nice walk, I'm going to buy myself a new journal, or I'm going to, paint a thing, or I'm going to take the necessary steps that get me to the position where I can afford those things I was just saying, because that's the only way it's ever going to get there, is by taking those steps. And then, the other thing would to be like opening up to family and friends, like if you're not comfortable with a support group, a psychiatrist, counselors, things like that, just find somebody that you can open up to, or who relates to you, or you just feel safe connecting with. Like I've had people in the past who came every week for a Reiki healing, or they would get a private reading every week, and it was like their weekly checkup or their weekly thing that they needed. So if you have somebody out there that you resonate with or feel safe with, or want to do that type of thing with, it's good for you to do something with somebody that you trust, that is like doing good for you. So like especially like Reiki healing, we used to have that Reiki clinic was it every week? Yeah, I think it was every week we did it. When I went to the other center, it was like every other week we did it. But every Tuesday from 12 to 2, we had a Reiki clinic. And as the practitioner, when you run energy, when you run Reiki to a person, you're benefiting from running that energy. So me showing up to that every week for those 2 hours, whether or not people came in for their because it was like a discounted thing, like it was $10 for 20 minutes, they got on your table, and people who had been certified as a Reiki 1 or a Reiki 2 that haven't really been comfortable or confident within themselves to do it like on their own in their own practice, they're not a Reiki master or whatever, they would practice. So there would be maybe like 2 or 3 of us at one table, and there would be like 3 or 4 tables set up in one room. It was quiet, it wasn't like disruptive, it wasn't crazy. And people would come in, get their 20 minutes or $10, and then they'd leave. A lot of them would tip, like $5 to the practitioners or whatever. But if you are a practitioner, or you are, a healer, a shamanic, whatever, find a place in your local area where you can maybe participate in something like that, or introduce that to the place. Because it gets people in the door, people that maybe can't afford to pay $60, $75 for a weekly healing. And then it gives you practice, and you'll meet other people in the community who obviously are into the same type of stuff as you, and it can be very helpful. That's actually where I started the Moon Key too. So I got my Moon Key long distance from somebody in Ireland, but then the women and the guys that I knew at the center that I worked with every week, every Tuesday, I was like, hey guys, I got the Moon Key rights. You want me to help? Like, do you want to receive them from me? And then the people who I practice on were there, and I gave them the rights and built up, my confidence. And then I started offering it as like alright, so I'm going to do the Moon Key rights for people. I did it as in like, we did like the 9 weeks, every week, group of people come get one right, or did the foundation rights one night, the lineage rites one night and the rites to come one night. So it was like a 3-week thing. And, you know, there's different ways to break it up, however you want to break it up. But when you do it, you get more out of it than just, like, getting it and not doing anything with it. Even if it's, whatever it is, Reiki, whatever, you know, like whatever thing they have. Like, there's so many of them. Like Kundalini Reiki, or this Reiki, that Reiki, blah, blah, blah. Like, I have the new paradigm multi-dimensional transformational start. Like, okay, what? Like, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's not going to make a difference until you use it, utilize it, practice it, give it, and you receive through the giving of it. But those would be good things for people to do who have had trauma. I am going to probably talk about this more on the next one because I don't want to make these too long, but there was a bunch of stuff that I felt like people may be, you know, may just help them to know about or hear about, or even to, like, be like, wow, I think that may be something I'm dealing with. So, you know, all the different things that can come about when you've had stuff in your life, and it can help you to be like, wow, like, I think I have that going on inside of me, or maybe this is something that's, you know, tormenting my person that I care about in one way or another. And then, you know, ways to recognize and then maybe shift those things that we recognize. But hopefully this will support somebody, help somebody out. If you have any ideas, or I just noticed that it did it again. You know what it is? This phone has like a side thing, like when you hold the phone, you can touch the screen, and it pauses it or it does something. It's like, it's crazy. It's so touchy. Anyways, if you have an idea, or there's something you do to help you with your stuff, you know, like something you recommend, or a way that you were able to overcome, or a way that has been, like, beneficial in your life. If you see this on YouTube, you can comment it. If you see this on a podcast place, you could either go to my website, because I'm going to add a page onto the website for a link directly to the Anchor page, that there's a spot where people can comment or ask questions and submit stuff. Like, I've been playing with my app here and finding new things about this place. So if you have a question, you can also email me. If you go to the contact page on my website, divineessential.com, you can email me an idea, or you could comment on the Divine Essentials YouTube channel. I also have the Bridget Rao YouTube channel, but I'm not really posting these there. These are more so going on to the Divine Essentials. And yeah, let us know what you think, if you have any ways that can support people, and if there's that connection for you with the, like, having been, maybe either been on Ritalin, Adderall, or were you prescribed, like, were you told that you were ADHD or ADD, or do you feel like you might be? Because that's also another part of this whole trauma thing, because a lot of people think, or get put into that category as, you're this, but it may not be that. But we'll save that for more into the next time that I talk about this, because that's part of those things that I was going to mention. So, thank you very much. Every day. Namaste.